who are with us this morning. I'm Marisa Camacho. I'm the president of the College of the Holy Spirit Alumni. And we're very happy to welcome you to our first webinar for.
What you're gonna show us? Just a moment, I'm still looking for it.
I'm delighted that we are starting the year with a very interesting topic about our environment. Did you know that the Philippines is one of the mega biodiverse countries, meaning two-thirds of the Earth's biodiversity and 70% of the world's
Use it.
plants and animals
Use it.
is in the Philippines is an archipelago composed of over 7,000 islands, depending on whether it's low tide or high tide. Plus, those creatures under our resource person today, Cora Guidote. Before Cora retired in 2017, Cora was a finance professional who specialized in equities and investor relations, both highly stressful fields that made her go into various stress relieving hobbies. Among them was scuba diving, which she started in 1991. She is also an avid photographer, which she found even more pleasurable taking pictures of sea creatures. So engrossed was she in underwater photography that before she knew, she ended up of many unique species. Came across various dive trips, both in and outside the Philippines. Cora is graciously sharing a large part of her collection with the alumni both for your viewing pleasure and for some educational purposes. He will show the awesome beauty down under and make suggestions as to how we can possibly help protect our waters and preserve our unique marine treasures. Please put your hands together for Cora. Take it away, Cora.
Thank you, Marisa. Okay, before I begin, I just want to say that I would like to dedicate this presentation first to my mom, who celebrated her birthday or her 100th birthday, if she were still alive, yesterday. She was one of the first who inspired me to take underwater photos because she always wondered why I would love to go underwater. And then the other one is to I'd like to dedicate this also to Karina Escudero, who recently passed away. She was the one who introduced me to the whale sharks of Donsol. This photo in the middle of me uh, snorkeling on top of a whale shark. Karina is an excellent videographer, and she's one of the most adventurous women I've actually met, and she also inspired me to go into diving and into photography. So I'd like to honor their memory, and I'd like to dedicate this presentation to them. So to start off, I just want to say that I'd like to thank the CHSAF, or College of the Holy Spirit Alumni Foundation, for giving me this opportunity to be able to share my collection of some rare photos that I was able to take over the years. Diving in these places in Anilao, in Nasugbu, Moalboal, Pescador Island, Malapascua, Tubataha, Coron, El Nido, Donsol, and also in places like Sipadan in Malaysia and Benca in Fiji. So this is the second time I'm presenting this. The first one was in Green Convergence, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to take a look at these species, because these are ones that you cannot see in the aquariums. No, you will only be able to see them in coral reefs, because they will not survive. So I actually got my open water certification from NAUI in 1991. Back then, I still had a waistline. And then eventually, I took my advanced diver certification from PADI, and I didn't really begin taking photos until I got my rescue diver certification, because it really takes a lot of effort and comfort being underwater to be able to take good photos, especially of the very, very tiny ones, um, the tiny ones that are kind of deep. No, so there's some species you'll only find at between 60 to 80 feet, which actually limits your ability to take photos. So back in 1991, most of Anilao looked like this. It was bombed out by dynamite or by cyanide fishing. So cyanide and dynamite, they really destroy the corals. And so I'm glad that in many places they've stopped this kind of fishing techniques. There was only one place that we would like to go to at the time in Anilao, and usually the open water divers, the ones that are graduating from the course, are taken to Cathedral in Anilao because there maraming isda, because we would feed the fish. Okay, so the fish thrive there. But eventually Anilao began to thrive because of the dive community, the education that the communities of these areas received from the divers themselves. No, so they were able to take care of the corals. And now Anilao looks like this with a lot of fish. It's a thriving place, not just for divers, but also for fishers who fish properly. So spear fishing is fine, but and if people have to use nets, they have to go far out into the deep, not near the coral reef where they will be destroying the reefs. The colors are stunning, and the diversity is just awesome to behold. Some facts about Philippine marine biodiversity, just to share with you. The Philippines is a global center of marine biodiversity, but it is also known as the Global Center of Marine Biodiversity, as the country covers a major portion of the Coral Triangle, with more than 16,800 kilometers of coral reef. So from Luzon to Mindanao, the country has more species per unit area than any other place on the planet. And that's how fortunate we are to have this kind of marine presence. No? It is also home to a unique collection of species of corals, seagrass, seaweeds, invertebrates, fish, and marine mammals. So marine biologists call the Philippine Sea the center of aquatic diversity. Okay. So this is a sample. No? So I'll start with the corals because the corals become the habitat of the fish. Kung walang corals, walang fish. Okay, so that's why we need to protect the corals. And they're very sensitive to heat. They're very sensitive to touch. The moment your fins hit the corals, they break. So they're very delicate. So these are different types of hard corals. Okay, hard kasi even if there's current, they don't bend. Okay, and then some soft corals. So the soft corals are actually nice to look at because when they're currents, they go with the current. This one even looks like grapes. These are anemones. Okay, fan corals. The toadstool coral. Okay, this is an anemone na nakatiklop. Okay. Okay, so iba-ibang klase yan. And when you see them, the camera doesn't do justice to taking photos of coral bed because the light gets diffused over, over distance. But this is just a collage of, a wide coral bed. And it's such a beautiful sight to see because it looks like a very, very big garden. And you really wonder who takes care of this very big garden of corals. And that's when you realize the magnificence of God's creation. These are the pristine corals of Dumaguete. So there, when you dive, you're not even allowed to use gloves so that you're not tempted to touch the corals. Some corals are toxic, no? So if you touch them, mamamaga yung kamay ninyo, or yeah. Kaya if you have gloves, at least you're protected. But then again, not having gloves really discourages you from touching them. So let's start off with the marine invertebrates because these are the most colorful ones, and actually kinareer ko talaga to look for some of the most rare species. And there were times that I would go diving for a week, just me and the spotter, no, because I would really go out there and look for these creatures. So my favorite are the nudibranchs because they're the most colorful, most ornate, and for me the most wondrous. Okay, so nudibranchs are a group of soft-bodied marine gastropod mollusks or snails without shells. I refer to them as marine gems, crawling along and decorating the Philippine reefs with their stunning colors and various shapes and forms. There are about 3,000 known species of nudibranchs, half of which are known to exist in the Philippines. So a nudibranch is like, as I said earlier, it's a snail without a shell. And their quality, yung anatomy nila is normally they have these rhinophores, parang horns. And these are very sensitive because they have they have eyesight, but very, very blurred. So they have very small eyes. So yung rhinophores is the one that they use to move along the coral reefs. And then here is the gill. Kaya nudibranch yan because nudi in Greek is naked and gill is branchia. So the gill is the one that they use to breathe. So it looks like a tail, but it's actually the breathing apparatus of the nudibranch. The colors come from the food that they eat. And the colors, actually, the more colorful they are, the more toxic they are if the fish eat them. So that's their way of protecting themselves from being. So I mean, in underwater, they just have to protect themselves from predators. And color is actually a warning that I am toxic, so don't eat me. Here are different types of Chromodoris. It's a different species, and basically their qualities having stripes on their bodies, although sometimes there are different patterns that appear, and you can see that they have beautiful colors also of their gills and their rhinophores. No? Usually the color of the gills match the color of the rhinophore. And then this is another species, the Chromodoris. And these ones have different patterns on their back, and some have some protrusions. No, but again, their qualities having the gill and the rhinophore. This is my favorite Chromodoris because they have very long mantles on their side. So when they crawl, nagsisway yung mantle along with the current of the water. So ang ganda-ganda nila tignan. And then when you light them up, they glow. The colors glow. Okay. Another species called the Hypsilodoris. I really don't know how these scientists or the marine biologists label them, but yeah, I mean, it's just, for me, these are just nudibranchs. So again, you have these colorful gills and rhinophores. These are juveniles. Hindi pa developed yung colors nila. No? They're very tiny, and usually they're just the size of your size of your thumbnail or half the size of your thumbnail. Okay, another one of my favorites is this purple one. So the normal size of the body is like this. It's elongated, but this one is kind of round because it's pregnant and it's actually giving birth. So here, these are the eggs that it lays, yung yellowish tape that you see. And then as it is laying its eggs, it moves in a circular motion, circular manner, para nagko-coil around yung eggs niya. So those are at least 1 to 2 million eggs that they lay each time. This one looks pregnant also, but I don't know. But yeah, so the normal size is like this. It's kind of elongated. Then the dorids have more texture in the body. Okay. And look at their gills. They're very ornate. Ang ganda-ganda nila. the color of this is really stunning, the green and the orange. So, you know, the artistic side of me always questions, always questions how these creatures are even able to design their bodies so artistically. So for me, that's why I find this such a wondrous creation of God, because it's just so beautiful to behold. Here you have more Dorids. Look at the gill of this, no? Parang flowers na sila. And these are mating Nudibranchs. So if you can see, when they mate on their side with these tubes extending out of the side of their body. And the unique thing about Nudibranchs is they both have eggs and sperms inside their bodies. So parang hermaphrodites sila. But they cannot reproduce by themselves. They have to mate, exchanging both sperms and eggs. And that's how they reproduce. And then, as you saw earlier, the one that was laying its eggs. So the other wondrous thing about this is they mate like for like. Hindi different species mating with each other. Hindi like for like. That's why for me, I still wonder how come there's so many different species with different looks, and how do they even start to exist? So for me, that's still a mystery. These are Dorids. The Dorids have no gills, but they have these protrusions called the serrata, and that's where they breathe through. Okay, so parang by diffusion they are able to breathe, but they still have the rhinophores. Again, here you have a mating couple of Dorids. And Ardiodoris, again, very ornate types of nudibranchs. The mantles are very long and curly. So they're so cute. So pag hinawakan niyo yan sila, para silang marshmallow kalambot. And then they curl up when they're on your palm. And then when you release them, that's when they extend their bodies again and then begin to crawl on the reef. Yeah, and see how ornate this one is. And the colors are, just it's really stunning. This one is very has little color, but the structure is mimicking the coral that it resides on. So again, very ornate. Almost looks like a butterfly. And here you have the more of the aeolids. The aeolids have more protrusions on their body. They're parang anong na nga sila, mga alien-looking nudibranchs. This one is called the dragon nudibranch. They're very long, parang worms na sila. They look like worms, but they have the rhinophores and the aeolids. The serrata are they look like the feathers of a peacock. And here you have two of these dragons mating. I don't know why I'm so lucky that I'm able to catch them mating. And these are juveniles. Again, very, very, very tiny. They're the size of half your thumbnail. And then let's move on to starfish. Again, there are different species of starfish. So this is one species with different colors. Red and white, red and yellow. This one has 6 fingers. So the moment a starfish has more than 5, it's very likely that one of the fingers will detach itself to become another starfish. So when the finger detaches, it will grow new arms to become 5. So that's how they reproduce. These are the more common ones that you see sometimes by the shore lang, no, while you're walking, you see these starfish. Here again, you see one with 6 fingers. Usually they have 5. These are the less common ones, the more rare species. This one looks like gingerbread starfish. And here you have more ornate ones, with more protrusions and more colors. This one looks like a sponge starfish. The crustaceans, again, I used to think that shrimps were ordinary, but then as I went diving, I saw that there's a diverse collection of these types of species, no? Which includes crabs, lobsters, crayfish, shrimps, prawns, krill, woodlice, and barnacles. So these are different types of shrimp fish. These are very, very tiny, and usually they reside on feather star corals or sponges. No? So here, this one is really, really tiny. This is on a tube coral. Yan. So iba-iba rin ang itsura nila. This one is so, the one on the left photo is so camouflaged. It has the same color as the coral it resides on. These are glass shrimps. They're very transparent, and usually they stay on soft corals like the anemone and this one that looks like grapes here. And then if you notice this one on the top, on the left, upper left photo, the yellow part are actually its golden eggs. So when I took the photo, I didn't even know that this shrimp was pregnant, but yeah, so it has golden eggs inside. Here you have squat shrimps on anemone corals. And the cleaner shrimp for me is quite interesting because it's called cleaner because it really cleans the skin of the fish that goes near them. So the fish every morning they have their bodies cleaned by cleaner fish or cleaner shrimp. So the cleaner shrimp would jump on the body of the larger fish and then just eat the parasite on the skin of the fish. So some divers they would take off their regulator and then invite the shrimp to clean their teeth. So and then they take pictures. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to take that picture. So and then you have these mantis shrimps. They're as big as prawns, but the big difference is that they have the most sophisticated eyes, and these eyes can turn around independently 180 degrees. No, I don't know what kind of colors they see, but they're supposed to be the most sophisticated eyes, and they almost look alien to me. The other interesting characteristic of a mantis shrimp is if you put your finger right in front of them, they will cut your finger with their if they whack it with their claws. So they're very, very strong. And I tried it when I put the camera in front of them. Talagang it will whack whatever's in front of them. That's how they attack their food. These are very tiny squat lobsters. No? This one's black and white. Na, I think they're just about an inch big. And these ones are even, the ones under even smaller. And they live in basket corals. So you really have to know where they live for you to be able to find them. And the spotters usually help me do that. Because if I were to look for them, I won't be able to find them. So the spotters, these are divers or dive masters. And all they do is just look for these rare creatures because they're getting paid for that by the photographers. These are lobsters. This picture during night dives. This the most crustaceans are actually nocturnal, so you usually just see them at night. And more types of crabs. The anemone crab is very tiny. It's probably an inch big. Again, it resides in an anemone coral. And then the hermit crab, you see them walk along the shore sometimes on sandy surface. And then the reef crab, this one's taken at night. Also the decorator crab, you hardly see the crab because it covers itself with anything that it can find. Kaya decorator crab, because it's the only way they can protect themselves from predators. And usually the ones that eat them are the squids and the octopus or the cuttlefish. Those creatures love crabs. Now let's go to the cephalopods. Ito nga yung mga squids, octopus, ganyan. And here, these are different types of octopus. The ones in the middle are the veined octopus, which are the usual types. No? So they're able to really camouflage the surface that they sit on or swim upon. So it's kind of, sometimes it's hard to spot them because of the camouflage, their ability to camouflage themselves. And it's amazing to see how their colors change as they're moving along the surface. On the left side, you have the wonderpuss. It doesn't change color, but it's kind of rare, and then it just burrows itself under pebbles and stones. You can see the size of the head compared to the regulator. It's very tiny, but it has very long arms, no? Parang snake-like yung arms niya. And then on the right side, you have the blue-ringed octopus. So like I said earlier with the nudibranchs, colors tell you that I am toxic. So this blue-ringed octopus is the most toxic of, octopus species. It's very poisonous. And these are the cuttlefish. On the left, these are the mature cuttlefish. Ang galing rin itong camouflage, no? It mimics everything that it moves on. So as it is moving, it's constantly changing colors, and it's just amazing to see how they're able to do that. Again, it's a wondrous thing to behold when you're underwater. The ones in the middle are juvenile cuttlefish, and the ones on the right are the eggs, and you can see inside, ayan, may mga baby cuttlefish inside the eggs. So when they hatch, they already look like cuttlefish, pero maliit. And then this is a flamboyant cuttlefish. Again, very rare creature, and it's hard to find them. And looking for them is like looking for a needle in the haystack, because they're also camouflaging themselves. So when you see them, they look like sand. But the moment you touch them, biglang nag-iiba yung colors, and you have these flashing black and whites on the body, and then all of a sudden there are protrusions coming out. And then the gills turn into bright pink and bright yellow. It's just an amazing creature to behold. Now for the larger species, we have the turtles, or the pawikan as we know it, and they're actually reptiles that live underwater. Yeah, so we're able to take photos of hatchlings, and the silhouette of the pawikan against the sun. Okay. And again, there are different species of turtles, sea turtles. They're so anti-stress because they're so relaxed underwater. Minsan natutulog lang sila. Yan. So the patterns on their shells basically is the one that reveals their species. So yung greenback turtles, ito parang leatherback turtles. Yan. I don't know what the species is of the brown ones. And then just to share with you some photos of other critters and fish species. My favorite are the clownfish, si Nemo. So there are different types of clownfish, and they're called Nemo or anemone fish because their habitat is the anemone coral. So a lot of creatures underwater have a symbiotic relationship with the corals. So for the anemone fish, they reside there. At the same time, they protect the coral itself. So these fish are quite, they're the bravest that I know. So the moment you even go close to the corals, they look at you, and then they kind of poke you so that you run away. But because they're so tiny, you actually think that they're just playing with you, but actually they're protecting their habitat there. So they're very curious, and they're very clannish too. So here you see a family of clownfish, hidden behind the anemone corals. Yeah, more of the clownfish. Ito, ibang kulay niya. Again, they also sometimes mimic the coral, but this one here on the bottom right has an exact opposite of, the very strong contrast with the coral in terms of the colors. Here you have a bed of anemone with different types of fish species living in them. This one is taken in Dumaguete, where you have a lot of these anemones and anemone fish. Ang ganda-ganda nila tignan. Then different types of seahorses, different colors, brown, white, yellow. This one on the bottom right, we saw it trapped in a net, and before we released it, I took its photo. Nakakaawa siya tignan. Yeah, so, and this is the most rare seahorse, the Pygmy Seahorse. And the size of this, again, is just half the size of your thumbnail. It's very difficult to find them because they're so camouflaged. They take on the structure of the fan coral, even the color, and they jump around when you take photos. And usually you find them at very deep levels, like 80 feet, ganyan. So I only have like 10 to 15 minutes to be able to take their photos. So looking for them is a challenge, and the other one is taking their photos. This is the pipefish. They look like little eels. This is the Moray Eel. Again, there are different types of Moray Eels, different colors. Usually they're just hidden behind rocks. So having this photo of an eel coming out and looking for food is kind of rare. You have the ribbon eel. The juvenile ribbon eel is colored black and yellow, and as it matures, it becomes light blue and yellow. And then below you have the anemone eels. They're tiny ones colored white, and they reside in anemone. On the right bottom photo, you have the crocodile eel. Kasi mukhang crocodile yung face niya, but it's actually an eel. These are leaf fish that are called leaf fish because from afar they look like leaves just floating on water. So I don't know why their bodies are structured that way, but they're quite interesting creatures. The most bizarre looking fish that you can find are the frogfish. So the frogfish, they don't really swim. They usually just crawl on the surface or on corals, and then they just wait for the fish to swim by them, and then they kind of open their mouth and suck in the fish. So malalaki yung mouths nila usually. So that's the frogfish. The yellow one on the right is actually a juvenile frogfish. And these ones are the lionfish. They're very beautiful, but then never ever touch them because they're very toxic. So the moment your hand touches the spine, mamamaga yung buong arm mo. It's extremely poisonous, but they're so beautiful, and they swim very slowly because of all these protrusions in their body. And they're very shy, so it's hard to take their picture frontal picture because they always turn around. So you have to time it very well. And here we have the scorpion fish, who's kind of related to the lionfish. They're not as toxic, and they're quite lazy. So they're always just lying on either in coral or in sand, and again, just waiting for the fish to pass them by, and then they kind of suck in the fish into their mouths. They have very big pectoral fins, so they look like wings almost, like these ones. So when they swim, those pectoral fins actually spread out, and they look like little birds underwater. This is the most bizarre looking scorpion fish, called the devil scorpion fish. They're very thorny, and they have very bizarre looking faces. So to see two of them is another rare occasion for me. You have the puffer fish. Mga puffer fish, the moment you touch them, they puff up. It's their way of signaling that they're also toxic, no? And same with the porcupine fish. So the moment you hold it, it blows up and it looks like a ball. And then the striped eel catfish, quite common. You see quite a bit of them, but you hardly see them in aquariums also. And the batfish, quite a common fish, but they're schooling. It's when they school that they become very interesting to look at. These ones you find in a lot of them in Tubataha, the sweet lips. They're very meaty fish, so when you see them, it's like you want to eat them. But they're also very colorful. These are the endangered species of bumphead parrotfish that we were able to behold in Sipadan, Malaysia. Because in Sipadan, they're there by the hundreds, and at night they sleep by the side of the island by the hundreds, and then in the morning, so we have to wake up very early in the morning, like at 3 a.m., and prepare to dive at around 5. Kasi in the mornings, they have their bodies cleaned. So they go to these rocky areas where the cleaning fish are, and then they kind of, line up to have themselves clean. So you can see the size of these fish. They're almost half the size of humans, or some of them can be as large as 5 to 6 feet. So pag ang dami nila, it's so interesting to watch them being cleaned. These are your typical jackfish or giant trevally. They're schooling. So the moment they get bigger, they tend to be more solitary, but these are usually schooling fish. The interesting thing about these types of schooling fish, especially for jacks, yung jacks, when this whole school is made up of female fish, there's only one male in that school. And when the male dies, the most dominant female becomes the male. And that male will, help everyone else reproduce. It's a huge harem. Yeah, so there. The feeling of being with a school of fish is just awesome. These are like your yellowtail snappers. You find these in El Nido when you dive in El Nido. This one for me is another ultimate dive in Pescador Island in Cebu in Mualboal. So they have in Pescador Island is actually a marine sanctuary for sardines. And there, even if you're just above the boat, you see them by the millions. And when you're actually diving and you're underneath these massive or mammoth-sized sardines, mammoth-sized school of sardines, everything turns dark underneath. So these are all sardines, millions and millions. And you see the predators here on the left side. There are barracudas, sometimes you see sharks preying on some of these sardines. And then I got lucky because there was a turtle breeding, going up to the surface to breed. That's one of my best dives in Pescador Island. And then this one's in Tubataha. If you want to see rays, there are different kinds of rays you will find in Tubataha, like the manta rays, porcupine rays, the eagle rays. And these are just samples of fish eggs on the right and the nudibranch eggs on the left. Another rare species you will find in the Philippines is the Thresher Sharks. Usually they go very deep at around 200 feet. But in the morning, for you to be able to see them at a more reasonable more reasonable depth, is to go there very early in the morning, because again, they have their bodies cleaned, so they go to a cleaner area, and then that's when you see them. So it's still very dark when we dive, and then as the sun begins to rise, that's when you see them having themselves cleaned. This is in Malapascua in Cebu. And then here in Tubataha, you have a lot of sharks. So on the left, there are at least 5 sharks under that ledge. And then 2 sharks on the right. These are reef sharks. They're usually harmless. So when there's a lot of fish, they eat fish. They don't eat humans. Actually, at least 95 to 98% of sharks do not eat humans. They only eat fish. They only become human predators when there's ecological imbalance. So when there's nothing to eat, then they will eat anything. So And I went to Fiji in it's called Benka, Beqa, but it's pronounced as Benka. There, the divers, there's a sanctuary there for sharks now, because sharks are becoming rare because of the fins. They're being harvested, which is not good because the sharks actually clean the seas with the weaker species now. Because if in a school of fish, the ones that the sharks or the bigger predators will eat there are the weak ones who cannot swim fast, no, against these larger predators. So if you finish off the sharks from the seas, mawawala yung tagalinis ng dagat, di ba? So anyway, so on the left are on the bottom are the black tip sharks. On the top you have the white tip sharks, and they're yung dorsal fin nila yung may white tip at saka yung black tip. And that's how you identify them. Okay, so here at around 30 feet there were a lot of these sharks na were being fed by the feeders. And then as we went deeper, we encountered na the more predatory sharks, the bull sharks and tiger shark. So here, our experience was really awesome. You know? So the night before, I was asking myself, am I doing the right thing? Because we will not be in cages. We were not in cages when we did this dive, sorry. And actually, bull sharks and tiger sharks are known to attack humans. But here, they are friendly to humans because the humans are feeding them. Okay. So it's interesting also that they were being domesticated by the humans. So for them to be able to be fed, they had to move in circular motion. Parang pipila sila, they have to line up to be fed. So if they don't line up, their nose is poked. So if they misbehave, there are metal rods that poke the divers used to poke their nose, and then they move away. So on the photo on the right, you have at least 8 bull sharks, and these are massive, you know, so they're at least 7 to 8 feet in size. You can see the one on the left side, yung yellow cap nung feeder, and the face of the bull shark is right in front of us now. So that's how close we were with these creatures. This is a video of a bull shark catching the food. There you go. So did you catch the teeth? How big those teeth are. Anyway, let's do that again. There. So there were about 20 of them swimming in circular motion as we were there. We were not allowed to move. Okay, so we were briefed properly and we were not allowed to move. And there were other dive masters who were also guarding us from behind. This is the tiger shark, and this tiger shark was called Scarface kasi may scars sa ano. So the scar was it happened because sometimes they get caught with fishing lines. So yeah, nagkakasugat sila. So the tiger shark is at least 15 feet in length, very big. So these are really top of the food chain. So when we were there, the feeders actually signaled us, and I thought we were about to go up, but actually they were signaling us that the tiger shark was about to arrive. And so what happened is it kind of swam towards us, looked at us one by one, went to the feeder, caught the tuna, and then went back to look at us and then swam away. But what we noticed is that as it was taking its food, the bull sharks stepped aside, you know, kasi nga top of the food chain to eh. So here you will see how big the tiger shark is now compared to the feeder. It really dwarfs the human. And this is the video that was taken by my friend. There. Yan. So bumalik siya to look at us, and then it swam away. You see how massive that shark is? Let's look at it again. Oops. So after that dive, it took me a while to dive again because for me it was an ultimate experience. It was an ultimate encounter. But one thing I really appreciated about Donsol and the Philippines is being able to see these massive whale sharks. Whale sharks are whales. I mean sharks. They're not whales. But they don't have teeth, so they're the gentlest sharks you will find in the waters. And what they eat are just the smallest things in the sea, like the krills and the little shrimps and the ano nga ba yun? I forgot the name of the tiny creature. But Donsol produces a lot of these krills from the Donsol River. In Bicol, they call it balao, or it's made into bagoong, shrimp paste or something like that. But there's so much abundance in that area that every year the whale sharks would go to Donsol to feed on those krills. So every year, if you want to see them, just go there between April to June. They open the season for whale shark interaction. And very early on in their discovery, that's when I encountered Karina Escudero, and she was taking videos of these whale sharks. And she was working with WWF so that there will be greater awareness. Because prior to that, these whale sharks were being harvested for their meat, because their meat are so tender, it's like tofu. And the Taiwanese and the Chinese would buy them, for a big fee. So sayang, and these are, now it's drawing a lot of tourists into Donsol and also in Oslob and Cebu, because that's where you find them. No? So if you swim by them, it's just an awesome experience because of the size, the sheer size of these fish. Actually, as they're approaching, nakakatakot talaga because you think they'll attack you, but even if you face them head on, they'll just avoid you. So these are the most awesome fish in Philippine seas. Okay, so just to wrap up, that's the end of my presentation. Again, just to reiterate that the Philippines is a center of marine biodiversity in the world. And we have to protect the corals because without corals, there will be no fish. Healthy reefs and symbiosis promotes life and greater marine biodiversity. A balanced ecosystem ensures long-term sustainability and an abundant marine life. Colors, camouflage, and size matters among sea creatures because that's how they protect themselves. The best way to protect marine life is education. So we have to really encounter these creatures for us to be able to appreciate what we have. These are treasures for the Philippines, and it promotes coastal ecotourism. So it promotes healthy communities, it promotes sustainability. The greatest threats to marine life are destructive fishing techniques and the use of plastic bags, because plastic bags, sometimes when they float underwater, they look like jellyfish, and the turtles actually swallow them and they die. So yeah, pollution and very bad fishing techniques are the greatest threats. Okay, so with that, I'd like to thank all of you for attending this webinar, and I'll be very happy to answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cora. Before we entertain your questions, I'd like to invite two members of the board to give the reaction to the presentation. Let's start with Vicky Naniagas. Vicky is actually a professor, and let's see what her reaction is to this presentation of Cora. Vicky?
Hello. Am I on? Am I on? Yes. Okay. So again, good morning, everybody. And thank you very much, Cora, for that beautiful, amazing sharing with us. You know, I've witnessed her presentation or attended her presentation once. This was in the Green Convergence webinar where I brought my students. See, I'm teaching tourism management, and ecotourism and environmental conservation is very near to our hearts as we advocate sustainable development. And even if this is the second time I've seen the presentation of Cora and heard her passion for the marine diversity, it never ceases to amaze me, those little creatures and the big ones that she has seen during her dives. You know, it's so amazing, really, that um, God's power, no? God's power and God's love for us to create these small things and big things at the same time. Sometimes dangerous, sometimes very helpless, you know? So it never ceases to amaze me, our wealth of wonders down under the sea. Okay. And I, just as my students learned a lot from her talk the first time, I'm sure all of us here have learned a lot. Some of us will not even have known some of the things if Cora has not patiently explained it to us. Like, we are the center of aquatic diversity. We have different types of corals. We are global center for marine, not only aquatic, no, diversity, but marine diversity, like the corals. And there's so many pala marine invertebrates. And they're so cute. You know, I don't know if we can get them as pets, but that's not environmentally friendly. And then, of course, there are many endangered species that we have to take care of. You know, love for environment and love for God's nature comes from within our hearts. And I know CHSians have a soft heart for God's creatures. Okay, we are trained to appreciate everything that comes from above. And so, what is my reaction? My reaction is simple. Let's put back in our hearts love for nature. Let's be mindful that they are these creatures, these marine, specifically marine creatures, are affected by any negative thing we do, like throwing plastics. I mean, we can throw plastics, but baka sabihin nyo, ang layo-layo ng bahay ko sa sea. Paano magkakaroon ng ano yan? Well, we don't know how our garbage collectors dump the garbage. But if we segregate trash and keep them orderly, then I don't think it will reach the sea. Okay? Balanced ecosystem, and balance means everything under the sea is there for a purpose. Even the invertebrates, the druids, no, the Cora,
The
the
Nudibranchs.
yeah, I you know, there's so many names. I wish I could, remember a bit. I was taking down notes also. So they're there for a reason. Even the toothless whale shark, okay, but they're there for a reason. And let's just go back and love nature, okay? Because as I said, all creatures, big and small, God created them one and all for us. There's always a reason. And thank you again, Cora, for um, bringing us into this adventure. It's parang we were also scuba diving. The nearest I got to be underwater is snorkeling, but you see there's a certain calmness that you feel, and you're so engrossed with looking at the small fishes, the corals, that you forget that we I'm floating pala here. And so um it's really amazing. And we learned a lot from this. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Vicky.
you, Vicky.
Now, may I call on Vicky Del Rosario for her reaction? Vicky, another.
Uh, yes, like Vicky, I also watched Cora's presentation during the Green Convergence seminar, webinar. But also like Vicky, I don't recall how many times I I said wow, and it was just amazing to see the creatures. No, a side story before I continue is when we lived in Polomolok, South Cotabato. This is in the Dole compound, Dole Philippines compound. You see, that's my that's my background. We lived there, which was near the sea. It was the mountains, but the nearest city was General Santos City, and we would go to market to General Santos. And at that time, that was between 1990, around 1994, 97. We would go to the market, and sometimes there would be uh, fish that look like your not tofu but like your liempo, yeah, our our ribs, no, country style ribs, and they would be so succulent. And the people would tell me try it because it's fish but it tastes like liempo. So I would buy, and they called it Diana. To my horror, after several years, I watched the news and I saw the skin of the fish, and it was the butanding. So without divers like Cora, who showed us pictures of the sea, I would not have known that those gentle creatures were what we would grill and enjoy. No, so I'm so glad because now everyone is so conscious not to try and catch the big fish because I think the waters of South Cotabato are not really where they are, but sometimes some of them get lost, I guess, and they flow and they swim down to Mindanao from Cebu, no, So I'm really thankful that divers like Cora have especially helped bring back life to our waters because they have shared with us the wonderful pictures of the of our marine life. No, we saw the beauty and the vibrance of our marine life in its colors, patterns, whether tiny or gigantic. Uh, to me, nature's art is perfect in its use of complementary colors, blue and yellow, or contrasting ones, and of lines, patterned, symmetrical, or of spots and dots. The patterns on the sea creatures flow elegantly and relax us, or surprise and amaze us and dazzle us. Divers like Cora, who captured and shared with us the beauty of the seas, are like the plantitos and plantitas of today, albeit of the gardens in the depths of the waters behind us. So, with that, I'd like to say again, thank you, Cora, for this presentation. It's wonderful to see the colors and the art in the sea. And it's wonderful that people like you shared your beautiful pictures of our marine life.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Vicky. Let's start with your questions. I see Brownie has some questions. Brownie Phoenix Villavicencio.
Please unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did not I did not prepare for a video. But thank you very much, Cora. May private message ako kay Cora. Sabi ko, tinuruan lang siya ng ate Rogie niya. Rosemary is my classmate. Anyway, my question is, first of all, we do appreciate the how do you call it? Appreciate very much, no, that we're able to see through your camera, through your shutter, what it is like. I'm not a diver, so I do snorkel also, and it's really natatakot ako sa sea urchins, but it's really a great experience, and my classmates also have appreciated it. But you know what, yung na nga paano natin mapipreserve itong mga napakagandang yamang dagat, napaka makulay at na talagang sila yung paraan para magkaroon tayo ng kayamanan, no? Even the food we eat, no? This is part of the whole ecosystem. So what two things do you think we should do as individuals or as CHSAF members that we can preserve these riches of nature?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Veronica. I think we need to keep our seas clean. I mean, for ordinary people, that's the least we can do, is to keep the coastal waters clean. Actually, every year there are coastal cleanups that are being held. So maybe one of these days we can support those coastal cleanups, so that we clean the seas of garbage. Pollution is a big threat to marine life, and just like plastics, I said earlier, they can kill marine life, no? Kasi they're thought to be jellyfish, and jellyfish is actually eaten by not just turtles but also fish. So sometimes you catch a big fish, and inside the stomach you find a lot of garbage inside. So cleanliness is, as they say, next to godliness. So let's keep our coastal waters clean. The other thing is education. So we need to constantly educate, especially the children, get them to interact with these creatures so that they have more appreciation. Say the more detached we are, like right now we're locked down in our houses and we have less ability to go to the seas, no? But the moment we have that ability and more freedom to go and explore the waters, let's do that so that we can also interact with the marine creatures ourselves. So yeah, then that's part of education.
Thank you, Cora. Brownie, meron ka pang question? Yung mga may question, you can just raise your hand or indicate that you have a question.
Yes.
Sister Eden has
Okay.
her hand.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Cora. It's really awesome. You gave me a vicarious experience of really experiencing the depths of the sea. Now, when Brownie was talking, I was also wondering what, in our own way, what we as CHSians could really do. Are there some advocacy groups that we can join, like yung mga Bantay Dagat? No, I come from Nasugbu, and I really get mad when I walk by the seashore coastal of Nasugbu town. So much trash, no? And the LGUs, the local government, does not seem to do anything. It promotes tourism, but it does not care for the resources. So ano kayang advocacy that we could link up with us as alumni, no? Para in a small way, we can do something and really enhance and protect life and sustain the future of the next generations. Salamat.
Yeah, thank you for that question, sister. Actually, Bantay Dagat is a good initiative. The most interesting observation I have is that most people who live by the coast don't even swim. They don't even go to the sea. I don't know why. Maybe it's a past life thing. Maybe they died drowning or something. So, but really, there's no substitute to education, and doing coastal cleanups by these Bantay Dagat, and also supporting their cause, like providing them with boats or something like that. There's a story I heard in El Nido where there were Taiwanese fishermen who harvested a lot of the turtles there, the pawikans, not just for the meat but also for the shell. And as the coast guards were trying to chase them, the coast guards could not even chase them because their boats only had single engines, and the Taiwanese had twin engines, and they were laughing at our coast guards. So we have very limited resources, and yet we have one of the longest coastal areas in the world. because of the different islands that we have. Now we have over 7,000 islands, and you can just imagine the length of that coastal area that we have as a country. So we have very limited resources to protect our seas, and if we can actually increase that awareness, to actually protect and appreciate what we have underwater, then probably there will be better effort to protect. Like Anilao before was really bombed out, but now it's such a beautiful area to dive, and they have alternative livelihoods, not just fishing but also ecotourism. No? So let's also promote diving, snorkeling, as an activity. Um, and Vicky Nanyagas being a teacher in tourism, it's something that can be really promoted as a primary activity here in the country. So it's Bantay Dagat is one of them, but the greater activity that we can really support is education.
Thank you, Cora. We have a question from a 6-year-old, Anna Tinsley Reyes. Ask your question. We cannot hear you, Tinsley.
How scary was it to swim with the sharks?
It was there are different sharks that I swam with, Tinsley, and thank you for asking the question. So the smaller sharks, it was okay. I wasn't very scared, but swimming with the bull sharks and the tiger shark, the night before I couldn't sleep because before I used to live in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, while I was there were news about people being eaten by tiger sharks. So I was asking myself, am I doing the right thing by diving with these sharks? So I couldn't sleep. But then when I saw them, the fear dissipated because it was just so awesome. Of course, there was still some fear and it was kind of scary, especially in the first dive because when I was diving in the shallow part, the dive master left me all alone with the smaller sharks because he had to fetch the group because I dove a little later. So I was all on my own for about 2 minutes, and that was one of the scariest experiences I had with those little sharks. But still, it was awesome.
You,
So
Cora.
thank you.
Any other question or comments?
I think Vicky Del Rosario has a question.
Yes. Vicky, please.
Yes, in educating, I think part of education is sometimes our friends like to have the sea creatures as pets in aquariums. I guess we should still part of education. We can mention to them how how unfortunate that will be for all of us, because I remember also when we were staying here, we had foreigners who were proud of their aquariums, and they would go to the sea to get water so that their fishes, which were fish from the sea and not
Water
for
fish.
aquariums, yes. So I guess that's also part of education. So the effort would be for everyone to know that these creatures will not live long if we take them as pets.
Yeah.
Any other question or comments?
Actually, there are
Maris.
other ways of interacting also because there are big aquariums na mga you can find in Manila, near Manila Bay. There they really take care of the sea creatures, no. So it's for public viewing, ganyan. But the thing missing there is the education part because there's no one really briefing people about marine life and how to support marine life. Yun lang yung kulang doon. So you're just looking at them, but you're not really understanding the relationships between the corals and the fish.
Okay.
Marisa?
Brownie has a question.
I know. Actually, I just wanted to add a little. Si Cora gave very good examples of communities who are protecting and now benefiting from the preservation of their coastal and marine areas. That's Anilao for one. The fisher folk there used to be gathering aquarium fish and sell this, no? So they used cyanide. But through the efforts of Haribon Foundation and some other organizations, they were able to first educate the communities themselves. What is happening to their ecosystem, the marine ecosystem, and the life there when they gather aquarium fish using cyanide. So nasisira yung corals, nawawala yung kakainin ng mga isda, nawawala yung magandang habitat for them. So when they got educated, then the fisher folk were organized. They were continuously supported through education and organizing work so that eventually they were able to do what they call an alternative livelihood mode, which is they now are the tourist guides for and even some do dive guides, no, for the tourists in Anilao. So it's a very successful approach, and that is also what Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF, did with Karina Escudero in Donsol. So we have a lot of examples of that around the Philippines. Some were not very sustainable because maybe the livelihood of the fisher folk wasn't really augmented enough. But some, a lot were successful. So they have their Bantay Dagat, they have their fisher folk associations, and even the women are involved in sustaining, maintaining the areas, both through tourism and also through cleaning up as well. So those are very good examples. And I hope yun nga, as CHS alumni, we can support those kinds of efforts. When we go to these areas, mag-donate naman tayo ng mas malaki-laki because that helps them preserve their livelihoods.
Thank you.
That's all.
Brownie, my question, does Haribon work in other areas also?
Yeah, they've been working in Bolinao. Haribon is a nature conservation society, no? It's a membership organization. So they've worked all over, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. In marine areas, ang alam ko, strongly, they work in, I don't know, if they pulled out of Anilao, I think, no? But they've worked in Bolinao for the giant clams preservation, and Bohol for the seahorse preservation. So those are just some examples. But they also have a lot of work with in land-based habitats, so forests and yung bird conservation and so on. They do a lot of research studies as well.
Okay, so thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to thank Cora and call on our Vice President of CHSAF for her closing remark. Vicky Inanyaga.
She's on mute.
Yeah, it's unmuted. Okay, so thank you very much again, Ms. Cora. This is a wonderful Saturday morning, and it is really a different experience, no? Being there with you, looking at all of these wonderful marine diversity, and being thankful and blessed that we have them in our country. Okay, so again, thank you for attending, the different members of the CHSAF. Thank you for spending time with us, and thank you for staying up. For those in the United States, it's almost 11 o'clock p.m. and I'm sure you don't regret being with us here. Before we go, we'd just like to remind everybody about the upcoming events of CHSAF. Okay, the first one is a Lenten recollection for CHS alumni with Father Ansem Manalastas of OSB, of San Beda. This will be March 27, 2021, 9 a.m. Manila time. So we will do the computation later when we send you the link. Okay, but please save the date. It's March 27, 2021 with Father Ansem Manalastas, a Lenten recollection for CHS alumni. The second one is a virtual a virtual Iglesia ni Cristo. Wait.
Visita Iglesia.
Getting it all mixed up. The figures of the pictures of underwater still in my head. Anyway, so erase. Simbang
Visita
Iglesia. Okay, Visita Iglesia, which we normally do every Holy Thursday after the main mass and washing of the feet. We Filipinos normally go to different churches, no? By car, by walking, etc. It's a custom that we treasure. So we will try to bring you a virtual Visita Iglesia on Holy Thursday, which pala is April 1. Okay, April 1, 2021. So it will be, syempre, at night. We just don't know whether it's 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. The details and the links will follow. But we will go virtually to 7 churches. Okay? At each church, there will be 2 people praying and saying the Stations of the Cross. So please save those dates, April 1 for Visita Iglesia and March 27 for our Lenten recollection. So with that, thank you very much, everybody, for your time and interest and a lot of takeaways from Cora's presentation. Thank you, Cora, for sharing with us your advocacy and passion. Okay. I don't know. I'd try to go back snorkeling, but not siguro in the near future. Okay, so with that, thank you very much. I turn over to Madam President Marisa for her closing remarks.
Thank you, Vicky. So we just want to thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. We hope you can tell your other classmates about our forthcoming events. Also, I would like to encourage you to get in touch with us if you have suggestions for topics that we can do webinars on. We want to be as as relevant to your interests as we can. So please let us know what are those things that you want us to organize webinars around. Thank you and good morning. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And stay safe. We're having a second surge of COVID. So please be very careful and practice the health protocols. Thank you and happy weekend.
Marisa,
Thank
is there a
you.
photo op? Marisa, is there a photo opportunity na? No photo?
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Please
I think some of them have left.
on your video so we can have
Turn on the
photo ops.
videos, yes.
This is what we always forget to do. Okay.
Sana the others can turn on their cameras.
Yeah. Parang one page lang ang lumalabas.
Yeah, kasi 21 na lang tayo eh.
Some have left already.
Okay, so thank you and have a good day.
God
Ayan.
bless everybody. God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye. Thanks, Marisa.
Thank you.
Cora. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Cora.
Marisa.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Ala.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Marie.
Marisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.